Good morning, everyone. Give me just a second to share my screen over here. And we will get started. Okay, so you should see me here. Again, welcome. I did just want to preface by saying today, this Techie Tuesday, is that same exact literacy strategy that we saw in our February meeting. So if you are a DLL, you have seen this one before, but a review never hurts. So like I said, this was one of those literacy strategies that our team wanted to show you at our last collaborative PD day, but so that everyone can experience it, we've now opened these Techie Tuesdays up to any teacher in the district. So we'll get started by just looking quickly at these instructions on how to mark up in photos. Our strategy today is called response to reading. So we're going to see how we can annotate on photos rather than in the traditional way of annotating in books. They aren't always consumable, so this can be a great tool for efficiency. So you can see those instructions here. I'm not going to leave them up on the screen for too long because I will do a live demo here in a second. And then on this next page, you see the same annotations, instructions, but instead of for drawing, these instructions are for using shapes. That can be good for some immediate feedback if you're able to get these photos back and forth from student to teacher quickly. So now we'll get into our activity. I'm looking at the screen. It looks like it's slow to switch on Keynote. So let's just go into our live demo. So let's say we've got our student My Books out on the table, but instead of writing directly in that book, we know that we have a few extra tools in our toolbox if we do this task digitally. So I'm going to take a quick photo of my book, and then that will end up in our Photos app. So I can go into Photos. Well, let me move you guys. And then find those screenshots that I just took. Now, with my screenshot of my book, I can now go up to these kind of slider bar icon, and those are our edit options. Once I get in there, I can choose this icon, which is our markup icon. And I'm going to leave it cropped like this, just so I've got all of these showing. Typically, this would just be a screenshot. But as you can see in this example, maybe a teacher takes this photo and adds their own instructions so students can work a little bit more independently in this case, or you can give them instructions and model as they're doing this annotation task. So on my screenshot, I can see some instructions. It's asking me to highlight in yellow the words that describe this character's internal traits. So to highlight, I'll need to choose a highlighter tool. We know that it's selected when it pops up like that, but an even cooler thing is if I tap that again, I get some thickness and opacity options. So since this is some small text, maybe I'll choose this thickness here. And internal traits. So I'm trying to think, not seeing any immediately in the text, but maybe we can use this green for external traits. As I sat, the character is sitting, we can see that visually from the outside, so I can highlight that there. Highlighter is just like we would see on paper. I can still read through it. But then some of our other instructions ask us to use a marker. So I'll choose one of these tools up at the front. Tap it again to check my thickness. I do like that. And then this is asking us to use a blue marker. So I'll tap my blue and I can circle now some of the external traits. I can circle the picture of him sitting. So as you can see, as we're working, not only can a bunch of these colors be easily used to differentiate in our thinking, But they can also be used to kind of organize our thoughts a little bit. We're dividing what we see in the illustrations and what we're discovering from that text evidence. So a lot of different tools that we can use. And then I also like to point out that the eraser has some cool options. I can decide to either erase just pixels, so a little bit of it like this, or I can erase the entire object at a time. So that just went away. On some of these Apple applications, like Photos, there are more than just the tools you see here. I'm using my finger to kind of swipe to the left, and I can see that I also have crayons, fountain pens, and some other cool art pens like watercolor. So there are a lot of different tools I can use. They also include a lasso for moving markings and a ruler if you want to get them really straight. So we've seen how we can annotate on those pages. When we are done, we do have to check the mark up in the top right corner, and then those annotations will stay for us. If we instead want to edit something or remove all annotations, we can still do that. Let's pretend that I had said, yep, this is great. Here's my annotation still, but I want to remove it. I can go back into that slider bar menu, back into my markup menu. And then in this case, I could just go to erase things if I wanted, or a lot of times in Photos, let me see, check mark. Oh, it's not recognizing that I did anything this time. Let me circle that again. I'm not seeing it this time. Typically right here where this yellow check mark is, if I have made markings and I go to edit it again, there it goes. I can choose to revert all of the drawings that I've made, or all of the edits really that I've made. Originally this morning I had cropped this all nice, but when I reverted it, now you see the entire keynote slide that I originally took my screenshot of. So that does revert all edits, so just keep that in mind. So those annotation tools can be really, really great for, like I said earlier, students who need to differentiate or organize their notes a little bit. They have all of those different colors to work with, and we might not always have those at our disposal. Those consumable books aren't always available, so the ability to do this task digitally makes it a little bit more efficient, not only because we can just take a quick screenshot, but a lot of times these resources are available digitally already. We just need to download those and access them from our iPad. The last thing I wanted to just touch on was that this is really great for also having a teacher model annotations. A lot of times we are never modeled what it should look like to have proper annotations where we are looking for rich text evidence to include in our writing tasks. So if we were to take a screenshot of this and then mirror that to our large display, the teacher can model those annotations. From there, if we're using something like Apple Classroom, we can immediately see and show off all of our students' work. And then kind of getting into this next slide, this also allows us to offer more immediate feedback. When we're using things like Apple Classroom to quickly airdrop things back and forth, or if we're using Teams, which is the most efficient workflow, we can get these types of things quickly between student and teacher. And I could use maybe shapes to offer some immediate feedback, even something as simple as a star, or using those same annotation tools to write the student a quick note. So let me show you quickly how to do those shapes as well. It is still in those edit options, that slider bar at the top, and we are still using the markup tools, surprisingly. With those markup tools, we've seen all of our tools here in a lot of different colors. That rainbow color wheel even gives us more options, but I think the coolest part is this plus button here. From this plus button, I can not only add shapes like this star you see here, I'm telling them that yes, this is a great thing that you found, or I could even add text. So great ways to provide our immediate feedback to students. And then one last thing while we're here, these three dots will be helpful if you have students that aren't able to annotate for some reason. Maybe it's not allowing them to draw with their finger. You'll just need to come into those three dots and toggle this on. Otherwise, it does think that we like to use our finger to scroll and gesture. So if this is toggled off, you'll need to check those settings to annotate with a finger. The stylus should always recognize immediately. So staying on this page, we've got just a few minutes left. I wanted to point out that these literacy strategies were developed in tandem with the TLCs, our teaching and learning consultants. This specific one was created by Chris Scanlon, one of our tech trainers, and then Angela Bruno, our teaching and learning consultant. She wasn't able to be on this morning, but I wanted to make sure that I relayed some really insightful stuff that she shared with us on our February DLL meeting. So as you can see on this page, these literacy strategies and this page specifically comes from our curriculum. This is from second grade. Students have consumable My Books, but if we were to do this task digitally, like I said earlier, teachers can see all of our students' work more immediately. Teachers can model those proper annotations and what those look like. And then we always just want to consider how this activity can truly translate into those students' speaking, reading, and writing tasks. So obviously, we are reading a little bit more closely when we are annotating like this. I can be organized with lots of different colors. So I'm doing that close reading. I am finding that rich text evidence to use in my writing task. But then if I also wanted to speak and work on fluency, maybe I could pop this and my writing into something like Keynote or Seesaw, which allow me to record audio so I can be speaking my writing as well. I also want to point out this actually comes from the Interreading Teaching Pal. That's the hardback copy for teachers of those My Books. And in the left corner of each page, you have this box that gives you not only some questions to ask to check for comprehension, but also some annotation tips that you can use and some follow-ups. So make sure that you are looking at those and utilizing them, especially digitally when it can be this efficient. I think that was all that I needed to share from Angela. So congrats and kudos to both of them for just coming up with such a great strategy for closer reading. That was all I wanted to share with you today. I will put this abbreviated presentation that you see here in our chat in just a moment. But as I do that, what questions do you have about this activity or anything else before we leave today? My wait time is not that good. I'm just working on getting this in the chat. All right. So you should see that abbreviated presentation start to pop up in the chat if you'd like to keep that for some shortened instructions or just to grab these first two slides to have for reference. Otherwise, I know we're just a few minutes early today, but that was all I had. Thank you for joining me and have a good rest of your morning.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thanks, Lisa.
I'm still waiting for it to come in the chat.
Oh no. I see it's got like a little unfilled bubble on my end. So let me see if I can just attach it again. Okay. Okay, that one
There it
looks
is.
like it's sent.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right.
Yep. And nice shout out for the collaboration. So
Yay.
yeah,
Good, good.
that's
I hope I captured her words.
you did, and even if you didn't capture her words exactly, it's always really good to just remind everybody that these are things within our curriculum. Like
Hmm.
I feel
Hmm.
so bad that like when you read how many hours teachers spend
Oh yeah.
looking at
Yeah,
other
creating.
resources and things.
Hmm.
Nope, and now it came twice, of course. Um, yeah, we don't want our teachers spending all night, looking for excursions. So I think
Yeah,
that's always
and
just a good reminder of what we can do with what we have.
definitely. And it's guaranteed and viable, so no
There we
reason
go.
not to.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. Emilio, I see that you're still on. If you did have any lingering questions, you are still on mute.